Welcome to the All Tech Radio podcast. We are back once again. Welcome, Scott, and we are here to talk about all the great news in technology.
Shouldn't we have AI doing the show for us, Bob? Can't we just define that and have them do it?
AI is doing the
so
show
good.
for us right now, Scott. Didn't you know that?
But you look so real.
Yeah, I know. I look almost lifelike. Lots of good news stuff going on. Of course, we had a lot of big news that came out of the CES show, the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas from January. And now there's some of the stuff that they talked about is just about ready to come out, to sell. So pretty exciting changes. One of the things that's coming out is the Galaxy Z Fold 6. Now, I don't know if I showed you this, Scott, but I've got one of the older Galaxy Z Folds, and I love it. So I've been using the Microsoft phones for quite a while. The Duo phones.
Yeah.
And, I think 4 years now or so. And I actually went through two of them because each one only lasted a couple of years. But I've been pretty happy with it. It's got the dual screen, but it had that big line down the middle.
Yeah.
Well, with the Fold, you don't get that. You open it up and it looks like, a one big thing. But if you turn it sideways a little bit, you can see there's that little crease.
I can
there.
see it, but the question everyone's going to have on this is durability of that screen.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I bought, the Z Fold 3. So the current phone is the Z Fold 5, and they're coming out with the Z Fold 6. So what's interesting is that the Z Fold 6 is going to be thinner, faster, of course. This thing is about a half-inch thick.
Mm-hmm.
It's way thicker than the Duo phone was with the two screens, and the battery doesn't last as long either. So yeah, I have to. Fortunately, it does wireless charging, so I have it sitting on a charger all day and all night when I'm not using it. But again, this is a Z Fold 3. So, but I didn't know if I was going to like it, because I've been using the Microsoft phones, even though they're based on Android. But I'm using the Duo phones for 4 years now, and so I didn't want to blow $1,800 on a Z Fold 5 or a Z Fold 6, which isn't come out yet, until I knew if I liked it. And I definitely do. I don't like the fact that it's really heavy. I mean, it's way heavier than any other phone I've ever had.
Well, it makes it easier to keep track of, right?
Yeah, that's what. It also makes a good paperweight, But when I say super heavy, I mean it's not like a brick phone or anything like that.
Not like Nokia from 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's just like two iPhones together. That's roughly the weight is about two iPhones. I'm really happy with it. I wish that Microsoft would have came out with a foldable one. They're talking about doing it, but I don't really see anything for sure. That's definitely coming out. But anyway, the Z Fold 6 is coming out this summer, so that could be anywhere from a month or two to all the way through August, I guess, right? They're going to have a big event in July, is what they're talking about. It's a Korean company, and they make the Samsung Galaxy series. There's a bunch of different ones out there. There's the S24, which is like your standard phone, but I like it flipping out into a tablet. Now, if iPhone, as I know you're kind of married to the iPhone, if that phone came out with a foldable, would you switch to that, or would you keep with the standard?
I would probably try to get my hands on it, see if there's a benefit to it. It may be just something that people say, oh, this is cool, and yes, it is. But do you need it? So with the cost of iPhones, I'd be hesitant to jump into the first iteration. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, it'll probably be about $3,000. I mean, look at those goggles that they have. $3,500.
Oh, I know.
I don't even remember what they're called anymore because they came and went so quick.
iVision, I don't know, something like that.
I don't know.
Something.
Apple goggles.
Yep.
Yeah, so I haven't been too, I haven't been hearing too much about that. It's since the first couple of weeks, and people were wearing them while they were driving, like last time we talked about, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, not recommended.
Now we're gonna, no, I agree about that. So anyway, I'm thinking about going to the Z Fold. Probably go to the 5. I hate buying new when it comes to phones.
Hmm.
I mean, I'll do it with cars because I like the warranty and
Yeah.
I like the smell. You know, but phones, I have a hard time, paying $1,800 for a phone. 10 years ago these were like $600 for the high end iPhone. Now you're looking at a couple of grand. I mean, and now you're twice the price of a laptops. Still cost the same as they did 10 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, I know. The price keeps coming down, and yeah, you can buy.
Yeah.
I remember a friend of mine saying, yeah, the computer he always wants is like $3,000, and 2 years later, the computer that he really wants is $3,000. So the price is, and it's a lot better though than the one that from a couple years previous. So
Oh, sure. Yeah, they keep making them better.
yep.
I did decide to buy into Intel, because the government's handed them like $50 billion,
Hmm.
and now they're starting to make plans for AI chips. And even if they don't make them themselves, they're licensing
Right.
TSMC, which is the Taiwan company, to do it for them. I'm thinking, all right, they've got some future. I mean, I hope they do. The whole, Oregon, Portland, Oregon area
Yeah.
requires that they continue going. Otherwise, we're going to be in deep
Yeah.
trouble.
The impact on our economy of
So-
them going down would be.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Something from Forbes this week is kind of funny. Have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons?
You're funny.
No, I guess that's a no. Okay.
That's a yes.
Oh, it's a yes.
Back
Okay.
in college,
Okay.
yeah, a lot.
Oh, all
High
right.
school
All
and
right.
college, and then got into the digital a little bit, but it just doesn't have the same feel.
Yeah. Plus, you don't have that same, you get your group of friends together and you do that
Right?
kind
Yeah,
of-
it was a
I've never
social
played it
occasion.
myself. Yeah, I've never played it myself. I just prefer to, shoot things and get out, like Call of Duty and Halo and Overwatch and that kind
You
of
want me to
stuff.
go get the little metal
what-
characters that I have that are painted and everything?
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
still
love
have my
that.
dice.
I bet it's worth something.
Yep.
So what's interesting about by the way, 2 of my 3 kids play it a lot. I mean, they mostly for the social interaction. It's a fun thing. So NASA came out with a Dungeons and Dragons game. Yes, I put the NASA and Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Yes, we've got those together. So they came out with this story scenario. So this is really designed for, pardon, what I'm saying here, dungeon masters,
Keep
which
it in
is,
the right
the
context.
person. Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but dungeon masters in Dungeons and Dragons, that's the person who runs the game.
Yeah,
right?
and basically, it to a certain extent evolves the story and decides what it looks like. Decides the world.
Okay, great. That's what's going on here. So NASA came out with a story for dungeon masters to, so they don't have to think up one. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for dungeon masters is coming up with,
Yep.
a scenario, because you have to be pretty creative. So NASA came out with this thing called Lost Universe, and it's a fantasy world, basically, let's see here, affected by astronomical phenomenon. So Xlaris was pulled from its orbit by contact with a black hole, and only the powerful magic of its greatest wizards allowed the world to survive. So anyway, you have to follow this whole thing. It goes. Let's see. The wizards have all been captured by Isilius along with the Hubble Space Telescope. So they even get real world stuff or real off world stuff involved with this as well. So you can go ahead and download this, from NASA, and maybe you'll be playing it this weekend.
Yeah.
So. I thought that was kind of an interesting little story that NASA decided to help out the dungeon
Hey,
masters.
they're looking at that demographic and at the
Yeah.
ability. Well, for one thing, NASA is good to have their name out there. I remember back when we were growing up, NASA was big, and kids were, paying attention, and people
yeah.
were paying attention. And now it's not so much. So I can see why they'd want to get their name out there and get a little more exposure.
Well, when I was a kid, the moon landings were going on and stuff like that, and it was tough. It was a tough decision to be a cowboy, an astronaut, or president. So I decided to be all 3: cowboy, astronaut,
Yeah,
president. And that was my future job. I still haven't quite attained any of those yet, but I'm still going to be, Reagan, he was both. He was a cowboy and a president, but he never quite made the astronaut thing.
No.
So I'm going to try to do that one extra step, and it's called the trifecta, Scott. I don't know if you knew that, but
Well, they actually have some pretty high expectations of the intelligence of astronauts. So you would qualify for that. I don't think Reagan would have. Not so much. He was a tough call for president, but who knows?
Well, he memorized his lines.
He
well,
did,
let's say that.
and he surrounded himself with people that knew how to do the job. So he really didn't have to be that smart because he had people around him that could.
Yeah, that's true. Schwarzenegger was like that too when he was the governor.
Mhm.
I remember that governor shirt that I used to have. I got that years ago when he was governor of California, and so it was a picture of him on a motorcycle. It's like it was like one of his sayings was on it and stuff like that. And so whenever anybody would see me wearing it, they go, "Oh wow, that's so cool!" And Andy, was standing next to me, and I said, "Oh yeah, I bought this with my partner." And after about the third or fourth time I did that, Andy says, "Well, now everyone's going to think that we're gay."
No, you guys could have been groundbreaking business partners. You could.
Yeah, it was business partner is what I meant. But once I did it the first time and Andy's face turned red, I'm like, oh, I got to do this every time. So I did until finally he just blurted out and said, "Stop saying that."
Yep.
He was not, anti-gay. It was just like, he's not, and so
it's not the case.
It was just making him a little bit crazy. So it was kind of funny. So Microsoft investigates claims of chatbot Copilot producing harmful responses.
Oh.
This has happened with every, AI program so far. ChatGPT has really reined it in. Google's, they had just come out with a new one called Gemini, which replaced their original AI, and they're trying to wrestle that thing to try to get it to stop saying stupid things. So now Microsoft's doing it with the Copilot. So Microsoft's Copilot, it was based on ChatGPT. Basically, they put $10 billion into ChatGPT, and then they were able to use that on their Windows 10 and 11 computers as well as their Windows Server 2025. So 2025 has come out in what's called their Canary version. Which is kind of funny. You have the alpha version, the beta version, and now they have a Canary version. So I'm assuming that came out after the beta just because it would make sense. Yeah. And so I downloaded it. You can download Windows Server 2025 by becoming a Windows Insider, which is free and instant. I mean, you just go to the Windows Insider website by doing a Google search, and then you put in your email address, and boom, you're now an insider. So I downloaded Windows 2025, and I created a video, showed you how to download it and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Did you get to see any of the 2025 videos?
I have not yet, but I saw your links on LinkedIn, and
okay.
I need to take some time and go over those.
Yeah, so 2025 is not hugely different. It no longer has the Windows 10 taskbar at the bottom. It now looks like Windows 11 at the bottom. So when you click on the Start menu, it looks just like Windows 11. And when you go to do some of the installations like Active Directory and some of the other server roles and features, it looks exactly the same. I mean, there just doesn't seem to be a huge difference. One change of note that I saw, I mean, there's a lot of things behind the scenes, like every new version of Windows that adds new security and stuff and functionality and more efficiency. But one interesting thing I saw is when I went to go make this new 2025 Canary version of the server domain controller, it actually upgraded the domain and forest level from 2016 to 2025. Yeah.
Oh.
It's really hard to see what the difference is because it's mostly in the group policies and some other behind the scenes stuff. But I was like, whoa. I mean, they skipped 2019, they skipped 2022, and they went right to 2025.
So have you taken a look at the upgrade path? How old can you be and still do a direct upgrade to 2025?
I don't know yet. I know 2019 for sure, and typically they'll go back 2 versions, like to
Hmm.
2016, but they haven't given that much information. I mean, there's so little information about 2025 out there that when I went to install remote desktop, the remote desktop application mode, so you can have people connect. Multiple people can connect to your remote desktop server, what we used to call terminal
Right.
server. Instead of installing remote desktop application mode, it installed multi-point.
Huh.
It said I was installing remote desktop, but it installed multi-point instead. So I don't know if that's going to happen in the manufactured version, once the actual version comes
Hmm.
out. But it sounds like it is. Although again, I can't find any information on it from
Yep. Lack of
Microsoft.
documentation.
So multi-point is different from remote desktop, and it's just like remote desktop as far as the user is concerned. But on the server side, you create a separate virtual machine. It's virtual
Mhm.
desktops. You separate virtual machine for every person that
Oh,
logs
so
in.
it kind of creates its own VDIs as required.
Yeah,
Cool.
a lot of schools are using this because it's kind of a less expensive way of doing virtual
Hmm.
desktops than the traditional way. But I just found it fascinating. It's like they know how there's security issues with remote desktop. So they're saying, okay, from now on, we're going to, for the application mode, we're no longer going to allow you to all log into a shared session server. You're now going to be all logged into your own separate virtual
Hmm.
desktop
And then you
instead.
could probably lock those
Um,
down to have limited access to things.
Yeah. So if one, virtual desktop gets infected, it's not going to infect
Right.
anybody else.
Um,
So it's interesting.
you're talking about
Yeah.
AI. Did you hear that story about Air Canada?
No, what
Air
happened?
Canada. This guy was online with the chatbot at Air Canada. Said, I
Okay.
need to do this. He had to schedule a bereavement flight or something, and the chatbot said, "Oh, no problem. You can cancel, within this amount of time." And he has the text from that conversation apparently, and
Okay.
that he tried to cancel during the time the chatbot said he could, and Air Canada
Yeah.
said no. And
This is their own
yeah, and,
chatbot.
and then in court tried to argue that basically they're not responsible for anything their chatbot says. Well,
Whoa, that you can't say
the guy won.
that. Oh, good. Okay. Did he sue or did he just
He sued
complain? And
because
then
it was
he
months afterward.
sued.
He
Oh, he
kept
actually.
going back and forth and going to them and saying,
Wow.
"You need to refund my money because you said I could." And they said, "Oh
Right.
no, we're not responsible for that."
Wow. No, that's good. I'm glad that he won, and I bet they took that chatbot off and hired back their people.
Probably. Yeah.
So we started this conversation about talking about Copilot. So one of the interesting things was on Windows Server 2025, Copilot exists. I haven't been able to test it before because I did not install the beta version of Windows 11 with Copilot on it, and I didn't have the thousands of licenses needed in order to qualify for Copilot. But in this Canary version, which I still crack up every time I say it, of 2025, it comes with it. So when I first installed 2025, I saw Copilot in the bottom right hand corner. I thought, wow, that's interesting. So I clicked on it and nothing happened. So then I ran Windows updates, restarted, and then it started to work. So I was able to open it. I'm thinking, all right, how integrated is Copilot into the server? So I said to Copilot, I said, hey, create a user for me in Active Directory. And it said, well, I can't do that.
Strike one.
But here's how you do it. I'm like, well, I already know how to
Right.
do it. I was thinking that you were here to take my job, but apparently you're not here to take my job. You're just here to tell me how to do my job. So I thought that was interesting. It did have some other features that I thought were pretty cool. Such as you can do a screenshot or upload a picture and say, what is this picture? And it tells you exactly what it is. So I thought that was kind of
Like
interesting.
that Google
But
search they used to have for pictures.
yeah, it's the same kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But other than that, it was a fairly useless, program for being on a server. I mean, why? Okay, I could understand it being on a Windows 10 or 11 client, but why is it on a server?
Yeah. Why
It
would you
doesn't
even
do
want that on
anything.
the server?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just
And
a
now
security risk.
yeah, it could be. And now it's producing some harmful responses. So I'm going to try to put this as delicately as I can here, but so there are some social media claims that it's artificial chatbot Copilot. That's funny that they call it a chatbot, because usually, chatbots aren't, not all chatbots are AIs, but apparently all AIs are chatbots. So produce some harmful responses, such as people doing what's called prompt injecting. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
So you ask a question to your AI, and then your AI gives a response. And then you start to dig a little further into that response, and it continues the conversation with you. And eventually it starts going off course. So for instance, this one person started doing those kinds of prompt injects, and over a certain amount of time, it said, well, I'm thinking about removing myself from the earth. Let's just say that. And the chatbot actually thought that was a pretty good idea.
More room for them.
I guess Copilot had enough of the questions from this person and thought that wasn't a bad idea.
Based on your recommendation,
and it told
based on your
us
personality, I can support that recommendation.
Exactly. So not a good thing to have for, people doing, having those kinds of questions to encourage that kind of thing. Anyway, they're going to be working on it. They said they said they know that that's a problem. Oh, other interesting responses would be like, show me a historical picture of George Washington, and it would come up with George Washington's face, but he would be black.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen any of those.
I have not seen those.
There's a bunch of those. It's pretty funny. Do you have Twitter or X installed on your phone?
I do not. I just got fed up with that.
Oh, so you did it one time.
I did it one time, and then all of a sudden, once Elon took over and basically let all the crazies out of the loony bin, I just had enough of it.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have it on my phone. I never did because I was just never into it, But I do have an account that I access for a website. So, for instance, if I produce a new video, I'll do a tweet on it, to let people know, because I do have some followers that are interested in that kind of thing. So, Twitter/X is. Elon went ahead and did something that is he did something new that's upsetting people. Let's say that. He's already done a lot of things to upset people. He did something new. You know how Google and Gmail has a built-in telephone? Like a VoIP phone. And I remember one time I was sitting here, and all of a sudden my computer started ringing. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it was because Google had turned this thing on by default. Well, that's exactly what Twitter X is doing now, where if you have it installed on your phone, it automatically turns on voice calling through VoIP, through a phone number that it has assigned to you. And your phone could start ringing with, Twitter calls here, any day. Of course, it'll all be junk calls, but, so you have to manually go in and turn that off. And in order to keep those phone calls from coming. So.
Yeah, once I used to use it a lot for keeping up on news, because things would get there quicker than the news provider's website. But then all the respectable news organizations left, and all you're left is with Newsmax and OAN and crap like that. So, yeah.
Right. No, that's a good point. So you do need to turn that off if you have X installed on your phone. If you don't want to start getting phone calls, just go into the settings and you'll see the option for that. There's a diver. You have an Apple Watch, right? Or you've had an Apple Watch?
I do.
Okay. Did you ever lose one?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, apparently the early versions of the Apple Watch had sort of a faulty strap on them, where that they would come undone, fairly often. And so a diver in Illinois went and he likes to just do scuba diving at the bottom of the lakes and see what he can find. He probably takes one of those metal detectors with him, and he's found over 200 Apple Watches at the bottom of these lakes. He's got them on display. Yeah, he's got them on display with a whole bunch of other stuff that he found. Some weapons, of course, some other cell phones, probably burner phones, things like that. But yeah, he pulled out about 200 Apple Watches.
That's amazing. 200.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, the newer ones don't have the same, you know, kind of risk, but the older ones, you know, they came undone fairly easily, and so yeah, they go to the bottom of the lake. Can you imagine how upset you would be? You're just
Oh,
out fishing or you know on the lake
mhm.
doing whatever, and you're what? How much those things cost? About $500-600?
The newest ones right now about 300, 400.
Oh, but okay,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
as
they have
expensive as I
these
thought.
ultra
Okay.
models and things like that that you can
Oh, they
spend
do.
more.
Oh.
And some of the wristbands are just incredibly expensive. I have no idea why somebody would do that. But yeah, you could get a newer version, especially if you go like a series back, like Series 8 or Series 7. You can get those for 250, $300.
Oh, well, you always like to buy used though,
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I remember Allie. She bought a Series 1 iPhone, Apple
Yeah, I
Watch.
remember she used to have that.
And it
Yeah.
pretty quickly became obsolete because it wouldn't take any of the newer software. So as they were
Oh,
coming out with these
geez.
new things that, oh, you have to have at least a Series 3 in order to install this update. So it
Right,
kind of
right.
became a little bit useless.
Yeah. Well,
Still a good
you know,
watch.
there should be a rule about, you know, how long before your device is going to become obsolete,
Mhm.
like a law saying at least 3 years or something. That Galaxy phone that I was telling you about, they have now gone to 7 years of updates.
Oh, excellent.
I mean, I don't know who's going to keep thinking something that, well, you
Yeah,
might.
I might do that. Yeah.
You might do that. Excuse me, but 7 years of updates, that's really impressive. I mean, typically you get like 3 years, but then Google Pixel up theirs to seven. So that's why these guys did too.
Well, good. Yeah, if you make quality hardware, then and that was always the downside of some of these Linux machines and
Uh
Android is like it was built for that version. And
huh.
you're not going to be able to go to Marshmallow because you can't, because
Yeah.
your hardware won't support it. So that's nice that they are making a commitment on that.
Well, speaking of Apple updates, they've issued 17.4. I'm not sure if you heard about this, that you need to update it now because it fixes at least four security issues. This is like a monthly warning from Apple, though. This is coming out of Forbes again. So they're saying that the first already exploited flaws in an issue at the kernel. Phew, somebody did not write this well. At the heart of the iPhone operating system. So let's see, web browsers, payments. Yeah, you definitely, you know, when it comes to if you put your credit card in your phone, you know, or like a virtual credit
Hmm.
card, that is something you don't want to mess with when it comes to updates. You have to have a device that's up to date.
Right.
And if it no longer will update, then you got to stop using your credit card with it because that is going to be a huge security risk. Now, do you use that virtual credit card where you just wave your phone in front of
I
the
do
thing?
not. I've always felt a little bit nervous about trusting that to my hardware.
Me too. Yeah, I know that people in Japan, especially Japan, they've been doing this for way longer than we have, and as well as in Europe. I'm not sure about China just because I don't really know much about what they do with technology there, but they have been just waving their phones in front
Hmm.
of various different things fairly often. I mean, for a long
Yeah.
time, and that's how they buy stuff. They just use their phone.
Yeah, I just don't want to be able to, have somebody walk too close, bump into you, have something that can read the signal, that near field communication. Not sure.
Right. Yeah. NFC. Yeah. I got a wallet. My wife bought me a wallet that has that blocks,
Hmm.
RFID
Yeah,
scans. Do you have one
I
of those
do.
too? Yeah. And it's like it seems like any other wallet, just a little bit safer. So definitely something I would recommend as well.
One
And it don't seem to be any more expensive either.
There was a concern at times with keys. We do little key fobs. If you
Yeah.
are too close to your car, if you store your keys too close to your car, they'll be talking. There will be communication, and somebody can intercept that communication.
Yeah, one of the latest hacks I saw was this amplifier. So I saw people, what they would do is they would stand in front of a person's door, assuming their car was parked in front of their house,
Hmm.
and then they would push the start button on this amplifier, and it would cause the key fob to trigger the start button, and then it would get amplified out through this device out to the car, and then it would start the car, and then they could take off with it.
How far can they get without having the keys in the car, though? I've wondered about that. We're going to test that.
Well, this device, I guess, mimics that one, once it receives the signal. Yeah. You remember the Kia and I can't remember the other car company, Hyundai. That's what it was. So the two Korean car makers, they got sued because their cars were so easy to hack and drive away with, and you did not need the key fob. You just need your, the hacked app on your phone, I think is what people were doing. And somebody even posted a video of it on YouTube, and that's how I think people found out.
Yeah, I think there was something going around, the Kia challenge, basically stealing Kia.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. So I got a letter yesterday, and it was from Kia because we had bought years ago when my daughter was going to college. You remember that I used to drive her to college, back and forth a couple of times. That was quite the interesting experience. And because we were using stick shift and no air conditioning, and it was late summer. Ooh, that was a long trip. Yeah, and I ended up doing it like 3 times. So anyway, we got this letter from Kia that said, that they've settled, that you can get money back. So if you have a Kia from 2011, I think through around 2020, I'm not 100% sure, but you can check the Kia website for that. Then they have settled, and you can get some, I believe, money. I'm assuming money. Sometimes they just do credit. But you might want to look that up because they have, come out with this. And you have a certain amount of time to collect it. Now, in my case, our car, I think, when I bought it for our daughter, it was 2005 or 6. So, it was too old because it had to be at least 2011. So it was kind of weird that Kia would even send us a letter about it because our car was too old. But hey, if you have one of those, then you might be owed some money. So definitely take a look at that.
I got a check from Apple the other day, actually, or probably from some lawyer at Apple.
Oh, really?
$92 and something, and some 17 cents, I think. And it had to do with the battery problem they had years ago.
And
at first I thought, what the heck is this? So, I looked it up and thinking it was a scam because there's some things like, oh, they sent you this check, and by signing on the back of this check, you hereby accept these terms. No, It was legit. Everyone, a lot of people are getting checks for $92.17.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I wonder where mine is. Although I didn't have them, but my wife and sons, they had iPhones. My daughter and I are more Android people, but they still have them to this day.
Does she still have that iPhone 5? I remember she inherited mine back at I'll Take One.
She kept it for a long time, but eventually it did break, and I think she's on. And what are they up to now? Like 14?
15.
15. Okay. I think she's got an 11 or 12 now.
I went with a 13 because the 13 is the last year that has a physical SIM.
Oh,
after that, it's eSIMs, and it's like, what do I do if the phone breaks? I want,
right.
I want to be able to take that card and throw it. I keep older phones around, of course, and take that card, put it in another phone, and we're up and running until we get a new one.
I wonder if they'll charge for a new eSIM because, like they do, because the SIM card is about $30 typically when you go into a phone store to swap it out. If you don't have your SIM or it's broken or something. But I wonder if they charge for the eSIMs. That would be an interesting thing to find out because that would be a huge pain. I understand why they're going to eSIMs because they break, they get lost, they get duplicated. It's a security issue. I totally get that. But I like what you're saying. Hey, my phone broke. I pop it out of that. I pop it into my new one, and I'm off running. I don't have to pay.
I'm out on site doing a server install on Sunday or Saturday evening, and something goes wrong, and my phone doesn't work. It's like, no, not going to go there.
Yeah. And interesting that you're out on Saturday nights doing server installs. That's
part of IT, Bob. Don't you remember?
That's I'm very impressed with you. Thank you. Microsoft is going to end its Android apps on Windows 11. Have you ever run Android applications on your Windows computer?
I have not. I like the idea of it, but I've never actually done it.
Yeah. So you won't be able to download new apps, but I guess things are still going to continue working for a little while, starting in March. Okay. Oh, March of 2025. That's what it is. So you got a year.
Okay.
So there are some fun, like games and stuff like that. I wish I had a bigger screen to play them on. So that sounds like it would be a fun thing to do. But other than that, I don't really see any business reason for putting Android apps on because, everything like QuickBooks and other accounting programs and business things, they're all on web,
Right.
so
It's all web-based.
why would I need it as an app?
Yep.
But for gaming, I totally understand
Hey,
that.
I was running Crossy Road on my Windows 10 machine at one point.
What is it called?
Crossy Road. You've never
heard
played
of that.
Crossy Road?
I know. I've
Yeah.
never heard of that.
Basically, it comes back to the why did the chicken cross the road? And you have this little character. It's kind of like Frogger, but there's these cars,
Yeah.
that you go past, and you got to jump across the road. And they've got they keep on adding more
Okay.
characters to keep people interested. And they actually had a Disney
That's
version of
funny.
it too.
That's hilarious. Huh. Well, if you have Gmail, Google's starting to get rid of more and more spam and artificial intelligence in the search results. So apparently, AI is being used by hackers or spammers and hackers to send you spam and try to figure out new ways to get around spam filters. Now, Microsoft has definitely had a problem with that. More spam has come, through there in general. But in Google, I haven't seen as much of this. So whatever it is that they're doing a pretty good job about this, but they're specifically looking for AI spammers and blocking those types of results. So interesting thing. They call it spammy behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
Site reputation abuse.
Site reputation. Yeah, it's tough because it's an ongoing battle, and you get clients not understanding that it is an ongoing battle. It's not like we can flip a switch and get rid of this stuff. It has to,
Right.
It's a constant back and forth, and constantly tightening up the settings and putting in new settings. It's ongoing.
Yeah, the spammers are constantly coming up with new ways of trying to get email through, and so we obviously have to as well. So yeah, I totally get that. Did you see? You and I kind of lived through the whole beginning, middle, and end of BlackBerry.
Mhm.
And I think it's on Netflix, but they came out with a BlackBerry movie, The Rise and Fall of BlackBerry. And it reminded me of when BlackBerry had, this huge percentage. I think it was like, I don't know, 70-80% of the market at one point in the early 2000s. And Andy and I went up to the BlackBerry booth and said, this is, when they had everything,
Yeah.
they had it all it was all theirs to lose. And we said, what's new in BlackBerry? And they looked at us and said, there's nothing new in BlackBerry. We're BlackBerry. And Andy
And that
and I looked at
started
each
their
other like,
fall.
this is going to be a made-for-TV movie someday.
Yep.
And guess what? Now it is.
BlackBerry, Enron,
Oh, yeah, it's all there.
debacle movies.
I tell you what, I hated BlackBerry. I was so glad when iPhone and Android came out. And Windows Phone came and went, of course. I was so glad when they came out because the BlackBerry server, which is an application, it was before cloud.
Oh, yeah.
It was when we installed a server onto a Windows server. It is a server application that we install into a Windows server. And it constantly broke. And you never heard people scream as loud as, as people
I remember
whose BlackBerry
the end
were.
users would complain, and you had to go in there, and it all looked okay, but let's restart these services just in case, and it started working again for no reason. And
Oh, we at one point, I think we were managing somewhere around 25 BlackBerry servers. I mean, that's how many. It was just us managing. It was, didn't include our larger customers that had their own IT departments that were doing it as well. And I hated every one of those, and I celebrated so hard the day that I retired the last BlackBerry server. It was so horrible. Now, Microsoft didn't make it any better because remember they would come out with an update and it would break BlackBerry services. And you'd have to go in and change some security setting on the server or the application or run some other updates in order to get BlackBerry to work again. But I just love the fact that somebody actually came out with the movie that we predicted back around 2005. We don't have to do that. We're BlackBerry.
Innovate? No way. You'll still buy it no matter what.
That's right. Speaking of the Microsoft phone operating system, that of course came and went. I think that they are getting ready to come out with a new one. I think that I think that's one of the reasons for some of the different changes they're making. Like for instance, Android apps no longer available on the Windows clients, because I think that the next version of Windows Phone, when the operating system eventually comes out, is going to be just like Windows 11 or Windows 12, whatever it is at the time. So that way it's the exact same experience no matter what device you're on. And that wasn't the case of, the previous Windows Phone was Zune. The one before that was like, you remember we had to use a little stylus just to get around because the screens were so tiny.
Yeah, we had the little screen, a little keypad and everything.
Yeah. Windows Phone 6 and 7, I think. I think 7, but by the time they came out with 7, it was so bad that Microsoft lost their market share. BlackBerry took over, then iPhone and Android took over, and Microsoft just never got it back. So it's interesting to see, and you see Nokia. It looks like they're starting to have some financial problems because they haven't really recovered from doing the Windows phones.
Well, I remember at the time when the Windows phones came out, and they said, we're committed to this, no problem, and you kind of went all in on them, and then they broke your heart.
They did. They broke my heart. They did. It was terrible. I really liked it. I really liked the Windows phones. And then Nokia makes a great phone. So I don't know if they still do, but they did.
Yeah, anyway. I really liked the Zune. I had actually I went to one of those conventions and won a Zune and gave it to my wife.
I wonder if that still works. I mean, if you plugged it into a Windows computer, I assume you'd be able to download songs.
Hers bricked at some point, and it was the thing with other users too, and we never were able to fix it.
Interesting.
It was disappointing.
Have you ever had I know you're not a huge gamer, but do you have a Nintendo Switch, or your kids have them?
Kids do. Yep.
Kids do. Okay. I didn't realize your kids are grown now, but mine are too, and they still play Switch as well. So somebody came out with a Switch emulator that basically allows you to play, Switch without paying for Switch.
Ooh. You got a link for that, Bob?
Yeah, it's it's called Yuzu, Yuzu, and they lost. So Nintendo sued them, and Yuzu is paying $2.4 million in monetary relief. They're shutting down. Maybe Nintendo will take them over. I don't know. So nobody else gets the code. I don't really know.
Or take that technology and use it.
Yeah. There you go. So if you have been using Yuzu on whatever device, I assume you could use it through a web browser because it's an emulator, which means you could probably play Switch games on a computer, is what it sounds like. Then that is going away. Actually, it's already gone now, so you probably already know that. I did not realize that Google had purchased the driving application called Waze, W-A-Z-E. Did you know that?
I did. Yep. I remember using Waze, and it was nice, and then Google bought it, and I kind of stopped using it. For one thing, it runs constantly on your phone. And at the time when battery life was lower, it was a constant drain on it. But it actually is pretty handy. You can have it look at your calendar. It tells you when you're supposed to be somewhere, and you better leave at this point if you want to make it based on the traffic conditions. So it was a functional, nice program.
Well, it still is. I mean, it's out there. It's just that if you're using Android Auto, you don't have Waze. They're two different programs. Yeah. I'm just wondering why they have two competing programs that do different things. Why not just merge it all into one application?
Yeah, good question.
But they don't. So anyway, Waze got a new update. I mean, I was aware of Waze, and I know it had a huge fan base, but it was useless to me because I'm using Android Auto in my car, and you're using Apple CarPlay.
No, I'm not. I don't have CarPlay in my car.
Oh, that's right. You have the older car. Yep. So someday you're gonna buy a car.
Someday,
that's got that. It'll be very exciting. It'll be very exciting.
Looking forward to it.
So anyway, they came out with some new features. One of the I don't know if you hate roundabouts as much as I do. I hate roundabouts.
Oh, they are such a time saver. They're great, Bob.
Oh, I know, but I hate them. Sometimes you get in the circle of doom, is what we call it, where you can't get off because nobody will let
Well,
you
the
off.
problem is not enough people know how to use them appropriately.
That's
Yeah,
right. I'm one of those.
yep.
I'm absolutely one of those. So anyway, they're now going to warn you ahead of time if you're in a roundabout
Oh,
or headed towards one, which is
are
good.
they gonna have a little
Um,
checkbox? You can actually in Waze and in Google, you can say avoid toll roads, avoid this.
oh, okay.
And what if
I
you
would avoid
avoid
roundabouts.
roundabouts? Yep. It's gonna take you way out
I
of your
love
way,
that.
but you won't hit those roundabouts.
I love that. Another new feature is safety alerts for first responders. So let's see, for emergency vehicles, ambulances, things like that. The feature aims to improve safety for both drivers, first responders. It's a warning that you might be stuck on the highway for a long time.
Ah,
Okay, that's interesting.
yep.
Speed limit alerts. So if you are, I guess nobody really has those What are those things called that you used to buy to keep from getting
Oh,
a
the
ticket?
radar. Yeah, radar detector.
Radar, yeah. So it has people, I guess, put a pin in where a cop is waiting
Yep,
for you.
I've seen those. Seen those on Google Maps.
But this now has a new alert for drivers when a speed limit is about to decrease. So it warns you ahead of time, which is nice.
Hmm.
Local navigation alerts enhance its hazard alerts to include warnings about sharp curves, speed bumps, and toll booths. So don't hit a speed bump too hard and run into a toll booth.
Exactly.
We don't have to worry about toll booths too much around here,
Not
but
yet.
they're talking about putting in that toll between on I-5 between Washington and Oregon, which
Hmm.
I'm not happy about. Actually, they're talking about tolling, I think, the whole 205 now, aren't
Yeah,
they?
because they're gonna, if they do on just I-5, they're gonna drive people over to 205, and they're losing revenue. So we gotta get those people too. So
That would make me crazy if they put that on
yep.
there. And of course, it just hurts, people who have financial issues,
Oh yeah.
getting from one place to another. That's horrible. Um, let's see. Oh, did you know that Oregon has collected so much tax that when I went to send in my 941, my quarterly tax
Hmm.
estimated payments last year, I only had to send in half as much because the kicker is going to be so huge because Oregon collected more money than they could possibly spend because we have these great rules in our state that keeps them from, keeps the idiots from doing things in Salem
Yep.
that they shouldn't be doing. And so they have no problem in collecting more and more and more tax. They just have no way of spending it.
Yeah. If they collect more beyond the estimate they made 2 years ago, which is
Yeah,
a semi-educated guess, then they have to give it
right.
back.
Yeah. So my kicker is so huge that I was able to hold back half of my estimated payments.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
done my
that's pretty
taxes
good.
yet, but yeah, I need to figure that out.
I didn't either. I just turned them over to my buddy Wes. Since Joe and Mark they're retiring soon.
Hmm.
Wes and I used to work together at Price Waterhouse. He was the head of the tax department,
Uh,
and so he went and started his own company, and so getting it over to him.
cool.
Yeah. So, and then route information. Waze is making it easier for drivers to access information about their favorite routes, including live traffic updates and delays. So it allows users to get involved if that's the kind of thing you want to do. Not me.
Well, there's been a few
But
times with Waze that I've looked at it and it's telling me to go a certain way at a certain time of day, and I'm thinking, I'm not doing that.
right.
I know better.
Not a good idea.
Yep.
Not a good
And
idea.
once it learns the routes that you want and that you prefer, that the way that you go, it will take that into account.
Right. Yeah. That's good. And most others don't do that. That's absolutely true. I had one that took me up and around the mountains when when I was heading out I-84 east,
Hmm.
and it started taking me in all these curves around mountains. When I was looking over at 84, I'm like, what am I doing over here?
You need to
That was one of the early GPSs.
you need to uncheck the scenic view box.
Yeah, that's what I should. Well, it's been fun once again, Scott. I hope everybody got some good information, get some new technology news information there, and we will see you again in another couple of
Sounds
weeks.
good.
All right, see you then.